So I started studying Tupac and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Rosa Parks and people of that nature at 7 or 8. Success leaves clues, and there's clues everywhere in terms of how to build routine. Fortunately, that season I scored 107 goals, and within a season I was at Man United.
From Ministry of Work, welcome to Greater Manchester's Greatest Minds, the show about Greater Manchester's pioneers, entrepreneurs and visionaries, and the stories that brought their ideas to life. I'm Eddie Whittingham, and on today's show I'm joined by Aaron Burns, former Manchester United footballer turned entrepreneur and life insurance expert. From growing up in Moss Side and Wythenshawe to training with the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo and Wayne Rooney, Aaron is on a mission to impact 100,000 people through his book club ABC, and by helping people build a proper vision for their future. This is a story of resilience, reinvention, and real-world impact.
I grew up in Moss Side in Greater Manchester in the late 80s. Grew up to a single parent. My mum was 16 when she had me. She didn't finish school because of my arrival. And it was pretty much just me and her from the outset. My gran, her mum was super prevalent in our life, but ultimately it was just us three. I went to school there up until the age of 7, and my mum got involved with a guy, and the relationship went a little bit south, and he made a threat on her and ultimately probably my life. And we ended up packing my bags in the middle of the night. Got woke up one night, and off we went. So we ended up moving to Wythenshawe near Manchester Airport, which is where my grandma lived. And we was in, I guess you would call it social housing, until we got sort of like a council house. And I always talk about it, but it was a difficult time, but it was the time that probably shaped me the most, because you go from Moss Side in the late 80s, early 90s, and to be fair, everyone looks like me, sounds like me, and thinks like us. And then you move to Wythenshawe in the early 90s, and it's a total different thing. There's a different mindset, an openness to potentially succeeding and to growth, which maybe wasn't encapsulated in the area that I grew up. But with that brings a lot of different challenges. You are the odd one out. You're the person that looks a little bit different. That questions get posed towards in regards to race, and my mum's mixed race, and my grandma was white, so if she would take me to school, it bordered some awkward questions that at 7 years of age doesn't come from a hateful place. It probably comes from innocence and a lack of awareness, but that probably forged my character at that stage, because I wanted to make sure that equality and racism was spoke about, and if I passed on any information to my peers, that it was the correct information. So I almost became a little bit of a student of things of that nature, to make sure that I wasn't misinforming people, that they went on to understand what being black in the UK meant and what being black in general meant. So I started studying Tupac and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Rosa Parks and people of that nature at 7 or 8, just so
That's
I could
mad age to start.
Yeah,
but did that weigh heavy on you? Because that's it feels like quite a big responsibility, the way you're talking about it for a 7-year-old. Yeah,
and I think I was someone who's always been sort of like a logical thinker. So I'm the black kid in a white school. My mum's mixed race and my grandma's white. So there wasn't loads of black role models around me. And although my mum would understand, my gran probably wouldn't. And also, you don't want to upset them as a sort of like a male. With them being female, so I took a lot of that on myself, but I just tried to learn as much as I could and consume knowledge and information and study, so that I could pass information on. I suppose that was the start of it all.
Were you quite studious at school?
Yeah, I really loved school. I was very, very good at maths and English. Was around adults from an early age, so was able to communicate with older people and have sort of like mature communication and relationships from from an early age, looking back.
Yeah, it's quite a powerful skill to have at a young age, that is.
Yeah.
And then how did school progress for you? So obviously you've moved. It's sort of a very different background to where you were originally from. How did the sort of school go from there?
Wythenshawe gave me everything, to be honest, because when you live in the inner city and the suburbs in the 80s and 90s, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of gang violence, there's a lot of crime. So I didn't really spend much time outside with my friends or my peers. It was just literally school and home. When you move to Wythenshawe, there's a lot more parks, fields, greenery. It's perceived to be a little bit safer, so you are allowed to play out. And really, that's where my exposure to building friendships away from school and the playground came. And ultimately, that gave me my opportunity to start playing football. So the age of 8, I hadn't kicked a football at all. I just went into the playground one day and a kid came up to me. Obviously, I'm Aaron and he was Aaron, so we clicked. And he was like...
I love that kid logic.
Yeah. He was white, I was black. It all made sense. He just said, who do you support? And I was like, I kind of don't know. I was like, what are the options? He was like, well, it's only can only be City or United. I was like, who's the best? And he was like, United. So that was that. And again, I went off and learned everything I could about Man United and started idolising people like Eric Cantona and Andy Cole and Ryan Giggs. And I started playing football at school. Realised I was a little bit quicker than people, a little bit stronger. Everyone was right-footed. I was left-footed. And then, got asked to join my first football team when I was 8.
Who was that?
Wythenshawe Amateurs. And by this time, I'm 8, so my mum would be maybe, 24? And we didn't have a lot of money. So that posed an issue in itself, because I'm saying, I'm going to go and play to my mates. But travel and
equipment.
We had no car and football boots. So I had to go home and have a tough conversation with your mum. You kind of butter her up, don't you, to say, Mum, I've told people I go into football and it's this much a week and I need some football boots. But by hook or by crook, we ordered some Puma Kings off the catalogue and off I went. And at that point, I become a student again, because these coaches know more about football than me. I don't know what position I'm going to play. I don't know how a team works. I'm just ready to try and learn and do my best. And fortunately, that season I scored 107 goals, and within a season I was at Man United. So things changed quickly.
Probably didn't take a genius to figure out you were quite good at scoring goals at that stage. 107 goals. Yeah. How did that approach come? Like, how do you go from barely kicking a thing, obviously scoring a bunch of goals, and then how do they actually approach? Is it at the game or?
The approach came. I think they spoke to my coach, who actually lived in an avenue, and he lived at the top and I lived at the bottom, kind of thing. And I think they knew people were coming. But obviously, you got a player that's scoring 100 goals. You kind of don't want him to leave. We finished second as well. We didn't win the league.
Unbelievable. Still bitter about it.
Yeah. Woodhouse Park beat us. I think they knew. I don't think they told me. And then United must have been a couple of times, and then I think they spoke to my grandma, who was probably at the game. And my mum didn't drive, so my grandma drove. She had like a broke down old white van that she used to drive around. So it was a case of, again, can I have a difficult conversation to say, are you willing to take me to the cliff 4 times a week so I can go and trial at Man United?
It's a big commitment, right?
Yeah. And now being a parent, and you'll probably understand, the after-school activities take it out of you, don't they?
Just a bit.
But as a kid, you just expect it. So she was picking me up 4 times a week, and off we were going from Wythenshawe to Salford. It's not that far now. Looking back, it's half an hour, but she was.
Yeah, but still half an hour there, half an hour back, waiting around for you probably.
From the age of 9 till 16, she did that 4 times a week, and I can't thank her enough.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what was that experience like? of being there and training there?
Superb. You walk into the cliff, and bearing in mind I've probably played football for 7 or 8 months, and I've had no real role models, but you walk in and there's pictures of Bobby Charlton and Dennis Law and Eric Cantona and Brian Robson and Roy Keane and David Beckham, and you're thinking, well, this is it. Like, this is the factory where greatness is made. But what you quickly realise at 8 or 9 is that at 8 or 9 they were probably no different to me. They must have a similar level of talent at my age, because otherwise I wouldn't be here. And it's now about what can I soak up and where can I get some marginal gains from to improve and fight off the competition. But
did you recognise that at that age, do you think?
I think you have to. I think it's Man United. So when you go in there, it's football. You're enjoying it, but I think there's an awareness that this is Man United's best football club in the country, maybe in the world. If you're not at it, someone's going to come and take your place. And every single game that you played, didn't matter whether it was Blackpool or Scunthorpe or Liverpool or City, everyone wanted to beat you every single week.
Yeah, it was everyone's cup final.
It's a saying now, but there was no days off. Like, we had to turn up, and it wasn't enough to win. We have to win in the right way as well. They were massive on that.
What was it like trying to balance that with school and your commitments? Because, like I say, you were pretty studious. So, was there a conflict there, or?
There would have been if I didn't like school.
Yeah.
I did like school. I enjoyed it. Maybe because I found it easy, or easier than most. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I quite enjoyed it, and I wanted to learn as much as I possibly could. I wanted to be a footballer. That's all I wanted to do. But I understood that you have to be. There's more than the game, and there's more than the white lines. And I wanted to be an impactful person, not just a footballer. So I took I did my best at school towards the later years, 15, 16. Your eye is on, can I get a YTS and go and be a full-time footballer when all my mates are going to go college? So I think at that point, you're a little bit more focused towards the football. Sure. And Man United were taking us out of school 2 days a week as well to train. So I wasn't there loads. But I still got good qualifications. And I was speaking to someone the other day, but if you look back on my team, I think I got 2 A's, 2 B's and 6 C's, so I did okay.
Yeah, amazing, yeah.
But there was people in my team who got a lot better than that. I was like 3rd or 4th in there. So they rammed it home that school was important, and if you weren't performing at school, you didn't know if you'd be able to perform at football, and that was the main thing. So
I suppose it's a mentality. It points towards your mentality, I guess.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I talk about the Man United mentality to this day, but you knew that it didn't matter whether you was going to the shop with your mum, whether you was at school, you was on a school trip, or you was actually playing for Man United. You represented the badge and in every single moment, and you were aware that people were looking at you to see how you were, whether you were polite, but also that they were going to try and trip you up. Or
I was about to say that. Yeah,
a little bit.
Did they try? Was there any like people trying to provoke you, and because they knew that you were part of it?
In school games,
right? Yeah.
In school games, I think my friends at school wanted me to do well. I think they all live vicariously through you, and that holds a lot of pressure, which we'll probably talk about later on. But yeah, in school games and outside of school, when you're just at the park with your mates or whatever, it's kind of weird because you're just there with your mates and you just want to be one of the thingies, but you'll just hear people whispering or saying, that's him or whatever. And if you turned up to a tournament with your mates or whatever in the summer, then yeah.
Because it's human nature, right? Even the parents will be like, he's the guy.
Yeah. So yeah, you just kind of have to block it out and just try and be who you are.
And that time at Man U, sort of what sort of things did you actually achieve while you were there? And
well, I didn't leave till I was 21, so I did okay. Had a squad number, travelled with the first team on a number of occasions, got onto the bench a few times. Obviously, trained with the first team. So I left in 2008. So you're talking Carlos Tevez, Cristiano Ronaldo, Nani, Wayne Rooney, Saha, Henrik Larsson was there, Paul Scholes, Ryan Giggs, Michael Carrick, Vidic, Rio, Edwin.
Prime time.
Yeah, it's the proper setup.
What was training like?
Oh, it was a good standard, superb. And when you got the call, you was a little bit nervous in terms of going over there and representing the reserve team well, and yourself and your family. But you kind of were in awe, but you kind of couldn't be at the same time because
you almost can't afford to be.
Yeah, no, it's just work, and you obviously know the legends, but there's still people like Ronaldo who went on and did more than you could have ever imagined. But that was just through hard work and consistency and almost creating a blueprint of what it takes to be the world's best. And he understood that at 19, 20, 21. He was building that then with that self-belief and confidence that he had. And because when he came, he was just a little bit of a show pony, and he certainly wasn't what he ended up being. He almost created that through studying successful people.
Yeah, great role models for you at that time.
100%.
And did you have a lot of interaction with, say, Ferguson and like the leadership style that he has?
Yeah. Your first day, you go and sit in his office, and he gets the whole of the under-16s in the office, and he tells you about the standards. And he used to have a big picture of. It was like, I think they were like builders or miners, and they were like sat on a steel barge pole out overlooking New York or whatever. And I think he felt that was really important to understand where you came from, and he was really conscientious in understanding your family background and wanting to know sort of like your moral code and your core values. He had a big knife in his desk that he kept like quite in view, and he used to make jokes and say if you stood out of line like that, he would come and find you with that. So that was scary. We were all sat there like 16-year-olds. But yeah, your interaction was every single day. So the canteen was big, but we all had breakfast together. So one day you'd be sat having your beans on toast or your cereal, and Van Nistelrooy or Roy Keane will come and sit next to you, and you just have a little bit of a chat. So your exposure to successful people,
which is quite smart, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
when you look at it, probably quite intentional.
Yeah, we was in the same gym, all in the same complex. We all had the same trainers, tracksuits, everything was the same. Our changing room was this side, so you sort of went 16s, 18s, first team almost. So you just crossed the corridor to go into that environment. So yeah, you didn't really know what was in that dressing room, but you guessed it looked a little bit like yours, but a bit better. But as they were coming out for training, we were coming out, and you'd put your boots on together. You go in the same boot room, and they'd go right, we'd go left, or over the bridge. So yeah, the exposure was every single day.
Yeah, unreal that. And then how did your football career go?
When I left Man United, I must admit I was obviously a local boy. I loved the club, and a part of my desire and love for the game ended at that point. I'd done well. I was top scorer in the reserves the year I left, but the manager Alex Ferguson just basically said, Sir Alex Ferguson should say, by the way, he just said that the pathway was a little bit blocked in terms of the strikers. Time, so there was myself, Fraser Campbell was in my age group. The year above was Giuseppe Rossi. The year above that was Sylvan Ebanks-Blake. And then in the first team there was Larsson, Solskjaer, Saha, Ronaldo, Tevez, Nani. Berbatov was on his way. Ryan Giggs could probably play up front. So they were,
and yeah, I suppose you at that age you're looking at, you're probably appreciative of the fact that it's a big step.
Yeah,
to try and oust one of those, isn't it?
Yeah, and in a lot of 99% of the world or the country, you've climbed a mountain and you've done really well to get to where you are. But you look at that mountain and you think it's a long way to get to their level. So you kind of know. At the same time that if you was given an opportunity and a chance fell, you'd back yourself to score.
Oh yeah, me and my mates always have that conversation. Like a goal scorer at any level is a goal scorer.
Yeah,
and I firmly believe that.
You look at Makeda a couple of years later, he comes on and he gets a goal that wins the Premier League, and you're looking for that one chance. But you also know that there's going to have to be 6 or 7 injuries here, and then they might just pull something out of the bag as well in the transfer window or whatever. But Yeah,
praying for injuries to some star strikers.
Yeah, but at the same time,
it's how opportunity comes.
Yeah,
though, right?
But you want the club to win as well.
You
still want them to win the Premier League, but you want to find a chance to play. But yeah, it just was what it was.
Did you have opportunities to move to different clubs or loans?
Yeah. After that, I went to Cardiff for a period of time, and they had a great team as well at the time, even though they were Championship. And Robbie Fowler was there, Hasselbank, Aaron Ramsey, who turned into be Chris Gunter, Trevor Sinclair, David James. So they were stacked as well.
Yeah.
Then I went and played in the Icelandic Premier League for a period of time, and I came back and just found myself around the leagues and just played. So I continue to play, but just not at the level that you think you're going to play at when you're 50.
And is that hard? Do you lose the love for it? Does it become more of a job, or does that love is it still there when you're playing in those sort of lower leagues?
A piece of me definitely died at that point. A piece of the love for the game definitely died, and I think as the game goes on, I think it's important to say that it chips away at you in any way, shape, or form.
So I remember the David James sort of famous quote was the first day he got paid to play football was the day he fell out of love with it, and I was like, as a someone who'd have happily paid to play football, it's like the maddest thing, but I can see how that happens because it's a job then, and there's a routine, and there's the graft associated with it, and I think very few footballers probably find a team that they love playing in, and therefore you sort of travel around the leagues, and you never quite find like home.
Yeah, so rare to find a good dressing room, and when you finish, you'll know the 2 or 3 good dressing rooms that you've been in. Don't get me wrong, if you're playing well and the team's playing well and you're on form, Saturday, there's nothing better than Saturday at 3 o'clock, whatever shirt you're pulling on, at whatever level of football. But I think it's the other side of the game, the thing that people don't see, the contract negotiations, the promises that are made that are maybe not delivered. And we, as human beings, you get a little bit, you become accustomed to certain privileges or things, and if you look back you think, oh, super lucky to have that, but as soon as that's taken away, when that becomes the norm, you're then looking at it and saying, well, this is not the same. And when you've been at the top of the game for so long and you grew up there, coming out of that, just even dropping down to the Championship is a massive eye-opener, and I think we can prepare young footballers for that a lot better, because it's not the talent, it's the adaptation in a new environment to understand that the way the game's played at Manchester City now is totally different from how Stockport County are
playing. They're going to have to relearn how to play football.
And you are good enough to go and play in League One or the Championship, but you're going to have to adapt and whether they get that adaptation period and that understanding, because it's results business.
And is there more teaching going into that now than there used to be? Like, was that something that was even talked about back then?
No, because it doesn't lend itself to the 1%, does it? So if I'm talking to young kids at Man United who need to aspire to greatness to go and play with Cristiano Ronaldo and Roy Keane and Ryan Giggs, I can't then be telling them that the 99% is this, because we're aspiring to get to there. And I think what we forget is that the large majority are not going to get to that level. Yeah. But how do you prepare someone when you're asking them to chase the dreams and maximise the potential to understand that there's a big drop off beneath that? And that's what we have to teach people in regards to success, understanding the balance or the equilibrium or the counteractivity between the two thresholds. And it's a thin line. An opportunity, a piece of skill, a moment might be the thing that keeps you above that threshold for your entire career. But we have to kind of prepare them without limiting them or telling them not to dream.
What do you think makes the difference between the ones who, like, I guess, succeed in that inverted commas of like where they're performing in the Premier League, for example, versus the ones that have the skill level to match but maybe don't quite get there? What do you think the difference is there?
I think it's a combination of consistency. How often can you be a 7 or an 8 out of 10? Because that over a period of time builds success. That's a compound effect. And there's people that with a lot of talent that can produce a 9 or a 10, but if some of the time you're producing a 3 or a 4, that's no good. So consistency, habits, but also a sounding board. I told you about my upbringing. I came up with a single mum and a grandma. So when it came to those football decisions, I only had one point of reference, which was Man United, the coaches, the people, my peers. Looking back, or if any of my sons go on to play, I'll try and give them different perspectives. Look at different elements of the world, business, other sports, because every business in the world, every successful business studies football, but football doesn't study baseball. It's not looking at what Tom Brady's doing. It's not looking at what Kobe Bryant's doing. It's not looking at how Elon Musk runs his business or Zuckerberg. It's very insular. We're just looking at who are the successful people here. What are they doing to be successful? When success leaves clues, and there's clues everywhere in terms of how to build routine. You're looking at business now, decision fatigue is a massive thing. You probably have the ability to make 5 key decisions every single day, and that's why a lot of the successful and really rich people have got blue jeans or black pants on and a white t-shirt, because they eliminated that decision. There's no options there. That's what I'm wearing. I'll say
don't
myself.
have to think about it.
Yeah. And I think football in general tries to do that for you, but I don't think we're teaching our young people to be more than an athlete.
And that probably goes beyond just football, doesn't it? I think that in general, we're sort of failing people as they're growing up in terms of habits and that routine and that structure. Like, I'm a firm believer in that. And I think it's something that you're passionate about, isn't it?
Yeah, I think consistency is super important. And when you're in an environment that demands it, it's easy to draw on it. But motivation wanes, and that's when discipline really kicks in and is super important. So I think it's important for us to understand, well, what does success, whatever you deem to be success, what does that look like, and what do you need to do on a everyday basis in order to compound that and create that sort of like consistency blueprint. Is it waking up at a certain time? Is it going for a run or getting some fresh air or meditating or gratitude? There's a lot of things that you need to take into consideration. What are the first things that you consume in the morning? Are you listening to a book or a podcast, or are you going on TikTok or Instagram and opening yourself up to anything, because that's an area of exposure. So I think you have to be consciously aware of the things that you're consuming in your morning in order to win your morning and ultimately have a successful day.
Do you focus quite a lot on your own routine? Like, do you have a bit of a routine that you like to follow?
Yeah, and I try and tell everyone in our business to do the same. But yeah, wake up, a little bit of mindfulness to remember where we came from and the things that we're able to achieve now. And then I try and get 30 to 60 minutes of exercise done. Ideally outdoors, but sometimes the weather's a bit mental, but we get it done, just to make sure that we're ticking over, because a lot of the time when I'm going for a run or I'm skipping, I like to skip a lot, they're where my best ideas come from. That's when I'm thinking about things and I'm able to say, well, this person might need this help today, so I'm going to reach out, or someone will pop into your mind. And if the first thing you do in the morning is get in the car and put the radio on, you know, they call it the news. I call it the bad news. So they're only going to tell you bad stuff on the news. Talk Sport are only going to be talking about the negative things in football. And, you know, I don't really listen to music anymore because the artists haven't really got too much to tell me anymore. Like, we know that they've got a lot of money and there's women or men involved and someone's broke my heart, and we know what they're singing about. So I'm trying to allow parents especially to understand that you can stack habits. A lot of our time, we all want to spend more time with our family and our loved ones. A lot of that time's in the car, whether we're taking them to school or we're taking them to after school clubs. And if you're on the phone or you're listening to the radio, the kids in the back there on their phone, is no social interaction. So I believe that audio books in the car is the way to, one, educate the next generation and ourselves, put something positive into, especially if we're studying successful people or a particular topic, to be learning, to be growing, to be developing. But then at the end of a chapter, press pause, turn around or turn to your side and say, what was that chapter about? Where, what have we learned? What have we taken from that? And that's what I do to my kids all the time. I don't think they know any songs.
No, but I love that, because, like you say, what does it teach you? That, you know, it's limited, isn't it? Whereas the other stuff you can learn is like, there's no limit on that.
Yeah.
What age would you say is a good age for kids to start doing? I'm just thinking mine are 5 and 3, for example.
Yeah.
Don't think they'd love it if I stuck on Simon Sinek.
Yeah, my 5-year-old's he'll listen to Simon Sinek.
Oh, really?
I don't necessarily talk to him about it, but I've got a 15-year-old, and I'll pause it on him and I'll ask him.
But I think that's fascinating because you are giving him the opportunity to learn stuff that, like, you and me at that age would have been screaming out for, like, would have probably got our teeth stuck into. Because I remember I had a pretty simple upbringing, didn't understand there's all these opportunities in business and all, and it wasn't until I probably got to like about 30 years old I was like, oh shit, people start businesses, this is how they do that. And so to open him up to that sort of opportunity at that age, I think that's amazing.
For me, I look back and hindsight's 2020, isn't it? But I really valued education till I was 16. I got my YTS and I probably didn't pick up a book again till I was 28. So I've only been reading really again for the last, I'm 37 now, so the last 9 or 10 years. But in that time, that from 16 to 28, those 12 years, like, what have I consumed, what have I learned, in what areas have I grown? Yes, I've grown as a footballer, and life's taught me how to be a man. But I could have been studying successful people.
There's not been any other development, has there?
Not really, until I picked the books back up. So to answer your question, I think it's important that from about 14 to 18 that we try and make reading as cool as we possibly can. Because the education system, say what you want about it, it might be struggling a little bit. We're asking young people to make decisions on their future at 16, what you're going to go and study at college, what you're going to study at university, and the only exposure they've had to the real world is what mum or dad do, if mum or dad are working, and if mum or dad are around.
Exactly.
So sometimes you look back and think, well, I spent 5 years doing that and I don't want to do that. I've realised I don't want to do that. So I think we need to try and allow them exposure to different things, different ideas, different thought processes away from the education system by studying successful people. But ultimately, as I said before, success leaves clues. Those successful people are going to also talk to you about their pitfalls and the things that they went through as a child, and they're now 50 or 60 and they're trying to pass the baton on. But what age do you pick the baton up at? Do you pick it up at 28 or 30, or do you pick it up at 18?
Exactly, and then imagine where you could be had you have done. So that probably leads us quite nicely onto ABC. So tell us about
that. So ABC is Aaron's book club, which just started out a couple of years ago, really, because obviously I'm someone who post on social media the books that I read. I allow people to understand how those books have helped me implement or grow my business, which I think is really important. And I kept getting requests for books off people. What book should I read? I'm just getting back into my reading journey. Can you give me 3 or 4 books? And a couple of years ago, be about 18 months actually now, we started a book club. 700 people joined within 3 weeks. Wow. And yeah, every single month I just identify 2 books of a similar genre for people to read, and then we'll come together. We'll have a little bit of a social, a coffee, a water in a decent venue, and we'll talk about some of the key talking points or topics that coincide with both books. So you might have read book 1, but you'll sit in a table with 2 people that have read book 2, and their thoughts on a similar topic mean that you either come away understanding the book that they've read or desiring to read the book that they've read. And we talk about consistency and compounding. I set myself a goal probably 5 or 6 years ago to make sure I read 24 books a year, which is just 2 books a month. But I'm guaranteeing my book club members that they're definitely reading 1 book a month. So it's 12 books over a course of a year, and that will compound. We're now starting an academy, which is teaching 11 to 18-year-olds how to read, what to read. We're doing a lot of vision board talks because I think vision brings decision. So if you know where you want to go, ultimately you know whether left or right is the right decision for you. So again, it's going back to my football. Every season I would look and say, well, I want to score 20 goals. 12 of them are going to be with left foot. I want to score 6 headers and 4 with right foot, for example, or whatever the numbers are. I'd look at assist and know how many minutes I wanted to play. I know how many games I'd want to start. at the start of every season. So I'd know what sort of like running pattern in pre-season I'd need to be into to do that. And that starts at 11 or 12, but that starts because I'm sat with a Man United coach who tells me what Ronaldo or Cantona or Andy Cole would do. So it's my job now to give back to those children and go into schools and colleges and teach them how to create vision boards so that they are successful, so that they have a direction, and then it becomes easier to study people because you know where you want to be. So,
and I think it's interesting because vision boards can get slated sometimes on the basis that they're just a bit sort of airy-fairy.
Yeah.
But your point there is exactly right, that the point of them is so you know where you want to go, and only then can you work backwards from it.
Yeah.
It's not just drawing some stuff and hoping that comes true. It's giving you a direction and a purpose and some action to take to aim for that.
Yeah, it's Hansel and Gretel. This is the top of the mountain. I'm going to work backwards from where I am. I'm going to put a little, I always say little bricks build big castles. So I'm going to put a brick down every single day to get to the top of the mountain. And in that journey, you understand who the people are that are specialize in those areas that you're trying to achieve, which then means that you can study those people, which then means that you can tailor your consumption. So the people that you're searching for on YouTube, you're searching for them for a reason, not just because they've come up on your feed. He's on Diary of a CEO. He does this. I want to go into this agency or this recruitment business. They're one of the best recruiters in the world.
Yeah.
Or you can have a subject. So, you know, leadership, negotiation, communication are things that I try and specialize in all the time. So I'm going to read a Chris Voss book, who was an FBI negotiator, because they must be the best in the world at negotiating. They're getting hostages out of hostile environments. So you can tailor your consumption based on the key lessons that you're trying to learn or the people that you're studying.
Yeah, I love that. And I think a large part of what, you know, you do is about focus on creating role models. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I think role models are important. We've talked about my upbringing. I was super fortunate that I had a little bit of talent that took me to Man United, that gave me role models. I think it's our job now as parents to create reading role models, to create business role models, and to just create people that are good for the communities and the society that we live in. I always think about doing the best in a situation. There's a scenario the other day actually. I've gone into David Lloyd's, and the guy's like kind of drove past the space, but it looks like he's reversing, but I think he's going to go into another space. So I pull into a space that thingy, and he parks his car up and he runs over, and I'm just getting my skipping rope out of my bag, and he starts swearing and that, and saying, "You've took my space." And I was like, "I'm sorry, but I thought you drove past it," kind of thing. But he's like, started shouting, "My kids are in the car, my missus is pregnant. Do you think that's acceptable?" And I was like, "Honestly, mate, if you want the space, like,
yeah, I'll reverse that.
Space, yeah." And then because he was looking for kind of a reaction from me, and he didn't get one because it wasn't that deep, and that's not what we're trying to do. Even if your kids and your missus are in the car, he ended up saying, "You know what, I'm really sorry. I've had a bad day. Lots happened to me today, and I just wanted to take it out on someone, but you're not the right person to take it out on because you've been really understanding in this situation." And I just think it's important that we have to understand that can happen to anybody. But if you'd have got up in the morning, gone for it, got a little bit of fresh air, maybe done a little bit of a run, you're able to deal with the tough things that happen, because things are going to happen in life. Life's going to throw some obstacles at you. But if you've won your morning in whichever way you choose to do so, we can handle them. We've got coping mechanisms. We struggle when we let things build up over a period of time, because compounding works in the opposite way. So yeah, it's about creating reading role models, business role models, and ultimately people that we can be proud of, that will drive us forward, because the next generation are probably the most important, aren't they?
Totally. And tell us a little bit more about your actual business then.
So yeah, we're in the life insurance space. I was super fortunate to get an opportunity 7 or 8 years ago from a dear friend of mine, Joe Thompson, who just recently passed away. And he was a public speaker and a very influential person in my life. I met Joe at Man United when we was 11. Yeah, he did a talk 7 or 8 years ago with a company up in the northeast who were in insurance and wanted to get into Manchester. And he offered me the opportunity on the way home. He thought that it was a good opportunity to buy into the franchise, and we did so. So from there, in the last 7 or 8 years, our mission statement has been to impact 100,000 lives, which is via reading, via education, by helping people create vision, but also by protecting families, making sure that they've got the right policies in place, giving them information, advice and guidance in that space, and making sure that if in the worst case scenario, that financially the families are looked after. And as I say, unfortunately, Joe passed away 2 months ago now from his third state of cancer at 36, and his impact lives on. And when I was talking before about the guy that was a little bit angry in the car park at David Lloyd, we have a little saying, which is, what would Joe do? And Joe would always do the right thing. So I could have met that guy with aggression, but I chose not to. I chose to take that to the higher ground. So, from now on, we pick that up. We pick up Joe's legacy. We're going to build a foundation in his honour. We're going to try and build a wellness centre, which helps everyone, not just cancer sufferers. And we're going to need people's help on the journey. But for anyone that knows JT, who's an amazing character, who's impacted my life no end. And again, I'm just thankful for Man United. He was a year below me, but without that, we wouldn't have. Without football, we wouldn't have met, and we wouldn't have done a lot of the things that we are doing. So we're just trying to support him and his family now, and keep the mission moving forward.
Yeah, and build a legacy around it.
That's the aim.
What else? So, is there anything else that you've picked up on that we could cover off, Dan, or anything that go on?
Sorry, there's more stuff you're doing like presently, isn't there?
Yeah.
Maybe dive in a bit of that just for your sake.
Yeah.
That's all.
So, like the journal, do you mean?
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about that.
Well, obviously, said it that little bit there out.
Leave it.
Yeah. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah.
I need that camera.
Yeah.
How many minutes have we been done here?
That's 45 now.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
So that's about what we aim.
Yeah.
Because so we've got the journal to cover off.
Yeah.
If you want to.
We'll talk about the journal.
Is there anything else that you'd like to touch on? That would be good.
No, I think we've covered a lot of the stuff. Yeah, it's been different as well, because obviously you talk about it and you end up talking the same things, but we've had a different level of conversation here. So it's been good.
So another thing that you mentioned before was coming on air was this a little project you're working on, sort of top secret, but you're going to sort of talk us a little bit about it anyway.
Yeah. It goes in line with what we're trying to do. We're trying to impact 100,000 lives. Consistency is the word that encapsulates my life so far, and hopefully will do for the rest of my days. But I think it's important to allow people to understand that there is a blueprint for consistency and a blueprint for success. And we're going to try and teach that to as many people as we possibly can do. Like I said before, everyone's success is different, but if we can put some scenarios in place to help guide people, or to give some people a little bit of a structure or a scaffolding to be successful, I think that we'll get people out of those routines that are negatively impacting them. So, what are the things that we would like to achieve this week? What are we grateful for? What have we read or we consumed this week that's going to help us next week? And then having a little bit of a helicopter view of your life or your week, because when you're in the moment, there's a lot of tall buildings, a lot of obstacles in your way. But if you just hover above it all, ultimately you're going to see that although there's a load of traffic here and Waze is saying you can't go that way, if you just turn left, then you've got an open road to wherever you want to go to. So just be giving people a little bit of a helicopter view on to how to be successful, the types of people to study, how to create vision and direction in your life. And then once you've got that, what are the things that you can do on a day-to-day basis to allow yourself to get there? Because some of these goals are going to be 2, 3, 4, 5 years away. And although you have the intention to do it, it's all about the action and the implementation. So The journal that we're going to bring out will hopefully allow people to understand how to navigate their life and stay on track to achieve their goals, whatever those are.
Fine. And when's that going to likely land, do you think?
I think it'll be out in November. Yeah, it's my birthday, so let's go for that.
Yeah, aim for that.
Yeah.
Ironically, I bet that's been a bit of a mission and required a bit of consistency to get that to the stage it's at, right?
Yeah, and although that's coming to fruition now, it's probably, again, an encapsulation of the things that I've done in the last 6 or 7 years to enable myself to get to where we've got to in terms of the business and the projects that we've got going on, because 7 or 8 years ago, this was all a little bit of a plan. It's now coming to fruition. I'm lucky enough to be on your podcast talking about it, but it all starts from a whiteboard and some ideas.
The definition of the overnight success is that it's normally many, many years in the making, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you have to be thoughtful, and we're probably only at stage 3 of a 5-stage plan. And when we get to stage 4, then I'll have to start thinking about stage 6 and 7.
Love it.
Appreciate it.
That's Aaron Burns, entrepreneur and life insurance expert. Thanks so much for listening to the show this week, and please do make sure to click the follow button on your podcast app so you never miss an episode. And don't forget to check out Ministry of Work, where you can also sign up for a free trial day. This episode was produced, recorded and edited right here at Ministry of Work, with a special thanks to our studio manager Dan Brown and, of course, to you for listening. I'm Eddie Whittingham, and this has been Greater Manchester's Greatest Minds.